restitution order on a step, because the way that restitution should be collected, it should be collected through parole and probation. Back in the day, I think there were offices that were doing it in-house. The information that I had received from the Attorney General's office is that, and I believe it's statutory, that that is the inappropriate avenue. You can ask that there be a judgment issued. There's also a way that you could have it go through central collections. But I would suggest that the best practices is, if you're asking for restitution, to make that pre-set, and then the victim could have been made whole prior to placing on the step docket. Otherwise, my suggestion would be, best practices would be to have it as a plea and condition the restitution as and make that supervised probation, so that it can be payable through parole and probation, because that is the correct entity to track the money coming in.
Thank you guys so much. I am going camera off. I'm back on my laptop, so I apologize about that. I went from laptop to cell phone, and Lord knows, technology is really just not my friend today. So thank you so much. I can hear you guys the whole time on one of my devices or the other. Unfortunately, I feel like some of the last answer about what a STED is got not recorded. We are live now, and I marked this one as State's Attorney's Office continued, just because I was trying to hustle and get us back together. So some of that may be not recorded, so I apologize. Okay, so what are some of the things that how MCVRC assists with some of the efforts of the State's Attorney's Office? Like, why would someone come to MCVRC when they have a State's Attorney's Office?
Sandra, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a couple of questions on the chat. It says, does the victim always get to give an impact statement? Sometimes the victim's concerns don't reach the judge, for example, when a STET is given.
So the victim impact statement should always be given. In my opinion, a victim impact statement, or the victim's voice, should always be heard regardless of if there's a STET or not. That is, for my office, that's best practices. So in my opinion, even if it's a STET, what I generally put on the record, and it's actually something that I did today, there was a victim who wanted us to place the matter on the STET docket, and before I placed and moved the matter on the STET docket, I indicated to the court, Your Honor, the victim is present. She does not want to be heard. We can ask again if she does, but here's the motion, and here are the conditions. If the victim wants to be heard, my policy in our office is always to say the victim would like to be heard, but this will be a motion to place the matter on the STET docket. Every office is different. Every state's attorney is individualized. They represent each county separately, so they are independent, and each office, has the prerogative or the independence to run their office the way that they see fit. So my comments are really just for my office and what our best practices are.
Thank you.
Thanks for grabbing that, Alondra. I feel like there's like a little asterisk, like, this is just for St. Mary's. Check with your local, like we should put that scrolling on the bottom. But we definitely appreciate you, Jamie. And let's see. I guess back to the original question, why would, if someone is getting all these great services from the State's Attorney's Office, and they're getting all the lovely things, why would they come to MCVRC?
So I think that question is probably most appropriate for your office to answer. But my guess would be in offices that are larger, like both Alondra and Blanche have mentioned, sometimes the other state attorneys' offices, there are just so many cases and maybe not enough victim witness advocates. So if they wanted, like, let's say, some more personal attention, I think is what was mentioned. But I think it's probably the best for you to answer. But for us, I think having both is great. I think having the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center, they're such a wonderful partner to us. I'm always really excited to see a representative. We usually see Danielle, and she is incredible. and we love seeing her in court, and she does such a great job for the victims. But we also work together with her. Often we're making contact with her, with the victims, or sometimes, when they reach out to us, we say, we're happy to chat with you, with Danielle. But I think I'm going to kind of defer to you guys to help answer that question.
Sandra, I'll take that. So as I always explain to my clients, the state's attorney's office, as the name would indicate, represents the interests of the state. The defendant generally has his or her own attorney. In the state of Maryland, crime victims are entitled to their own legal representation. And that, just like any attorney-client relationship, is a designated advocate for that specific individual, for that specific family, to ensure that their rights as crime victims are upheld and enforced throughout the process. Crime victims have a set of statutory rights in the state of Maryland, as afforded by Article 47 of the Maryland Constitution, as well as Title 11 of Criminal Procedure, and various rules that implicate victims' rights. So the crime victims attorneys from the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center work to ensure that crime victims across the state are represented in the appropriate manner. Although the interests of the state and the crime victim generally align in that, in most cases, crime victims want to see the offenders in their cases held accountable, there are some instances where those interests do not align. And at those junctures, it is important for crime victims to have their own separate representation so that the attorneys can petition the court on their behalf. And that's just from a legal standpoint. We, as Alondra, I'm sure she can speak to, we offer a number of advocacy and support services as well as legal representation. In addition to that, we also walk our victims through all phases of the criminal justice of the criminal justice proceeding. That includes trial and sentencing, as well as post conviction proceedings, even parole hearings. We also offer assistance with criminal injuries compensation. Our advocates assist, Alondra will speak more to that, assist our victims in applying for criminal injuries compensation. And if there's an issue with their claim, if it's denied, we provide representation at those hearings as well. So there are several services that MCVRC provides that are not necessarily available to them from the state's attorney's office, because the state, as the name suggests, again, is representing the interests of the state. And their resources, can only go so far with the volume of cases that they have and things of that nature.
If I could also add, as I mentioned earlier, we have 8 advocates here in our office that all are spread around the state of Maryland, where we do provide court accompaniment, but we also locate resources. Like Blanche mentioned, Criminal Injuries Compensation Board, we're very hands-on with that process, from submitting the application, helping you collect documents, letting you know what information is missing, and then speaking with CICB as well. We also have a CICB attorney and paralegals that help with the process. Let's say, for example, if your claim gets denied, we have in-house attorney that can help you with that process as well and guide you with how to make sure your claim does not get denied, or if that is a process, we can have a hearing. Again, I'm not an attorney, but that is a service that we do provide. We have counseling in-house where we can refer you to Safe, I believe it's Safe Harbor. They provide 6 free counseling sessions. And then if you need more, we can also refer you again. We can locate housing resources, connect you with the social services, anything that you may need, our advocates are there to provide that service.
Thank you so much, Alondra. So other comments that are coming in. Do the attorneys in your jurisdiction get victims' rights training?
What kind of victims' rights training? So maybe I can answer it this way. The attorneys in my jurisdiction know of the rights that victims have that Blanche mentioned. We send them to specific training depending on what type of cases they're handling. So for example, we'll send prosecutors to homicide school, and there is specific training there for families of victims of homicide. We send prosecutors to trainings for special victims unit crimes, domestic violence crimes. And so we send not only the attorneys, but the victim witness advocates on case specific type of victim crimes, on how to work with victims and how to best assist them. And then as far as what rights victims have, that's general. That is statutory. It's required by law of what we have to provide victims with. Some of those being notifying the victim at each stage of the case, giving victims the opportunity to make victim impact statements, and reaching out to them at those critical junctures. So those are things that our attorneys are required to do. And we have special witness coordinators who work with the attorneys in ensuring all of those are achieved.
Thanks, Jamie. If people don't think the police have done a good job, should they complain to the state's attorney's office?
If they want to make a complaint, they should probably complain to the agency. So they could always go back to that agency and reach out to a supervisor as far as depending on what the complaint is. However, if it's about, every complaint could be so different. If it's, I'm upset that the police officer didn't get critical evidence and I have it here on the phone, complaining is not really going to do anything except for putting that office on notice. Like if it's the sheriff's office or Maryland State Police or something like that, what they need to do is identify that information, and the state's attorney's office can work with that law enforcement agency to get that critical evidence. There are ways that we can gather that evidence. So time is of the essence to ensure that no evidence is destroyed. So it just depends on what they're trying to achieve. If it's more of a, I'm disappointed at the way I was treated, that should probably be taken to the entity or the agency that the complaint is for. But if it's, I'm very concerned that critical evidence is not being obtained, then that can come to both. Sometimes if that's told to us, we will contact that law enforcement agency and say, hey, our understanding from the victim or the witness is that there's evidence out there that you haven't gotten yet. Please get this evidence right away. What can we do to help you gather that evidence? By search warrant? Is it by state's attorney subpoena? Can you reach back out to the victim and interview them and figure out what it is that they have?
Thanks, Jamie. I feel like these are all going to be directed to you, so it's going to be the Jamie Sterling show. But I guess it happens when we have you in our lives. So this other question is, why are there so many plea agreements? Why are so many plea agreements accepted instead of trying a case?
So that is a fantastic question, but it's just numbers. So in St. Mary's County, we process probably 500 circuit court cases. And I'm just going to stick with that because it's a smaller number. I was elected in 2023. So 500 circuit court cases, meaning felony, that's approximately, I think it's really 300 to 500 every year. There are 3 circuit court judges, 5 business days a week, right? And you take 52 weeks and 3 judges, and it's not just left there for criminal cases. There's civil matters, SINA matters, family matters, divorce matters. There's all sorts of other cases. So it would be nearly impossible for the courts to have a trial in every case. There has to be a way for us to get through those cases. Should there be more judges and more prosecutors? I'm here for it. I would love that. I would love more judges and more prosecutors. The system is not set up for it. I will tell you this, in St. Mary's County, I know the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Fader, and our administrative judge, they both testified in front of the Maryland General Assembly, actually asking for a whole nother judge for the circuit court, what they testified to in front of the General Assembly was, look, this new state's attorney, since she was elected, criminal jury trials went up by 261%. And they said, we can't handle that volume. And it's a recorded, it happened in front of the General Assembly. You can pull it up and you can hear all the reasons that they said that it's drowning the system. And I can tell you, we didn't have 500 trials though. What I was told is that the prior administration in 2022 had 8 criminal jury trials. My office had 38 in year 1. I haven't tracked that number because I guess it's a number that the judiciary tracks. But whatever I did from 2022 to 2023 set off red alarms everywhere and said that the courts can't handle that volume. So much so that the Chief Justice testified 2 years in a row saying that we're breaking the system pretty much, that they can't handle that they need a whole other judge. So think about that. That is a 33% increase that they're asking for judges. So if I were to have, 8,000% increase, what would that do? You wouldn't be able to have enough judges. So I think just purely mathematical wise, they couldn't finish that. You also have to realize that we're up against certain requirements. In criminal cases, we have to get a case finished within 180 days. You tell me how we're going to do 500 cases within 180 days. It's just not possible. So there are these requirements that are set up, and the American criminal justice system is not set up for trials. But I'm here for it. I love trials. My office is here for trials. If we can get some more prosecutors and more judges, we're here to try every case.
Thanks so much, Jamie. I think quantitatively, it's definitely easy to comprehend like what that workload looks like, especially when we all look at our own workloads and the things that we have to do with such little time, which doesn't even include preparation for whatever it is we're doing. So thanks for being so gracious to answering that question. So that's all that I had, unless there's other questions that I didn't catch in the box. Ladies, was there anything that you wanted to add to our agenda or notes that you wanted to throw out there?
It's one question. How does the state attorney's office and MCVRC work together? Specifically, victim rights attorneys and our state's attorneys. How do we work together?
Well, she was saying how much she loved Danielle, so
Danielle. Danielle is she's in our jurisdiction quite frequently. I think she has expressed the same, kind of love for our office, and we have a great working relationship. I think our both agencies are there for crime victims. I think we are united in what we're trying to achieve for our community. I hope that we're not in the minority. I hope the rest of the offices work as well with each other and can provide in my opinion, exemplary services that I think we should be. I think that's part of why I became a prosecutor and part of how I want to run our office. And I think it's something that we will continue to do. We'll come up with innovative ways that we can help each other. But there are some things that, like Blanche, you mentioned, that we don't handle, and that's the criminal compensation fund. And we don't appear in those hearings. So when it's stuff like that, I think our office, we know what we can do and what we cannot, and where we could use some help. So my office very frequently will farm out or make a referral and say, hey, why don't you reach out to Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center? And I think that's how offices are successful. When you can provide the service, you provide the service. When you can't, if you can't do it, find someone else that can. And I think that's why our office has been so successful. A specific example that I can give of how our offices have worked together, I was the prosecutor who handled the Stephanie Roper case that came back for the Juvenile Restoration Act. Myself, and I had another special prosecutor, Gavin Potashnik, who is very well versed in the Juvenile Restoration Act. I reached out to Cecil County, asked the elected state's attorney there, James Delmeyer, if he would be okay with Gavin assisting us, and we worked on that, the prosecution of that, of the Juvenile Restoration Act hearing together. And then there was an attorney from the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center that represented Mrs. Roper specifically, but we worked together in my feeling successfully winning that hearing, because the defendant was denied his Juvenile Restoration Act request to get released. So that's one example.
Right, and just to piggyback off of that, one of my primary goals whenever I get a case is to make sure that I establish a rapport with the state's attorney, the assigned state's attorney. It's never our intention, and I think I can speak for all of our attorneys, to come into the situation and in adversarial nature. We are both there to serve the crime victim, as State's Attorney Sterling indicated. So it's important to establish that rapport, open that line of communication. And I found that sometimes state's attorneys will prefer our presence because we have, built a relationship with our clients, and it's easier perhaps easier for us to deliver certain information to them than the state's attorney. So we generally work hand in hand with them. Obviously, they're an integral part of the process as one of the parties. So it's of paramount importance that we have that working relationship with the state's attorney's offices in our counties.
Thanks, Blanche. And I guess there were couple other quick questions. Is it better to request restitution through the state's attorney's office or MCVRC?
The restitution, if it's requested through, I honestly think the best way to request it is make it a condition of probation so that there's teeth to it. So what does that mean? Whatever the sentence is. So let's say it's a theft conviction, and let's say it's we're just going to do a minor theft, a 90-day offense. If the defendant gets the benefit of having all 90 days suspended, because the idea is that the defendant would pay restitution, what incentive is there going to be to pay the restitution except for maybe getting that backup time? So that backup time can only happen unless it's a condition of probation. Conversely, that will be payable through probation. If you, the other best way is to make it, if they have the funds available prior to the plea. So the benefit of the plea or the benefit of whatever resolution is that they made the victim whole prior to taking whatever resolution they took. Now, if none of those things happen, we had a case today where the person was placed on probation for, I think it was either 2 or 3 years, and didn't pay a penny of the restitution. Then it got set out as a judgment. So, and then that's a civil judgment. And I would imagine that the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center could then assist after that if the judgment is defaulted. And so I think that's much harder to do, to get someone to pay after there's a default. I think it's easier to get it up front, but no two scenarios are going to be the same. I think it's just very fact specific.
And if just to add, whenever we're representing crime victims that have restitution claims, I, as a best practice, always make the state's attorney aware of that so that they can make it, a condition of the plea agreement vis-a-vis a condition of probation, so that we are able to recover it that way. In addition to having it recorded as a civil judgment, so that if for some reason it's not recovered during the period of probation and probation is terminated for some reason after we've, filed a motion to have it extended for payment of restitution, we can still pursue it through the various collection methods as well. But either way, it's fine. The most important thing to do for crime victims is to make, whether you're being represented by the state's attorney's office, whether you're being represented by MCVRC or not, is to make the state's attorney's office aware that you have a restitution claim, so that can be made a part of the criminal sentence.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also think if the victim is also pursuing some kind of civil remedies, like let's say it was a collision, a car collision, I would caution them in saying, we don't want any restitution, we're going to go after it civilly. I think trying to get it as a part of the criminal restitution and then letting your civil attorney know later. I think sometimes what you do then is you almost waive your right to have the restitution under the criminal case, and then it's harder. Like, what if your civil case becomes nothing or you lose the civil case? So I think it would be better to try to get it under your criminal case and let your civil attorneys know that you made X amount of restitution, because also you got to remember that the restitution is different, that is allowable by a criminal case, and then what you can get in the civil case. So in a criminal case, you could not get pain and suffering, you could not get lost wages. But if it's your car got totaled, don't waive that. Say, look, my car was totaled and it was $20,000, and that's what I'm requesting. And then your civil attorney could still get claims for medical expenses that might not be covered in the criminal, but also can go for lost wages or pain and suffering.
Thanks, Jamie and Blanche. Definitely some good input on that. So I think that's all that we have for today. Is there any last things that you guys wanted to drop before we do our sign off and all that other good stuff?
The last thing I wanted to say is thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of Learn. I've always been a fan of the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center. Mrs. Roper is just a trailblazer, and what she has done to create the Stephanie Roper Foundation, and now which has turned into the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center. I think that the trailblazer work and the voice that she has created for crime victims is something I greatly admire and I appreciate. I think it is a legacy that every state's attorney's office tries to carry on and do the best that we can. And having MCVRC be able to assist and help, like maybe patch up any of the holes that we can't in some of our offices, is just an incredible service for crime victims. I would really cheer for anyone who's interested in getting into advocacy. You can all help be voices for, if you are a crime victim or crime survivor yourself, or if you just want to advocate for others, go to Annapolis, work on some bills, testify, write to your legislators when there are bills that you care about that help crime victims. There's so much that you can do. So I would just, just to reiterate, thank you guys for being here and allowing me to be here. But two, I want to empower everyone out there watching. There is a way that you can assist, whether you are currently a crime victim or you were a crime victim, or you just want to help.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Such good input, and we definitely appreciate all that. Blanche or Alondra?
Just if you have been a victim of crime in the state of Maryland, contact the Maryland Crime Victims Resource Center so we can assist and advise you in making sure that your rights are upheld and enforced throughout this process. Unfortunately, most people have not been victims of crime. So generally when, individuals come to us, this their first instance with the criminal justice system, it can be daunting. It can be intimidating. So we're happy to help you navigate that process.
We have, like I said, 8 advocates, and we have attorneys that cover all the counties in the state of Maryland. So, we are here to help. Give us a call. We can definitely direct you in the best direction that we can.
Thank you all so very much. Sorry about my technical difficulties for month 2 in a row. Gonna have to figure out what is going on with that. I appreciate your grace in my technology issues today. I hope that this session has been helpful regardless of that. If you're watching this and you've glimpsed some information from it, we have a whole slew of videos on our YouTube. We keep them. If there's something that you're looking for, if there's questions you need answers, it's a great place to start and to refer people. As I say every month, share. You never know who you're helping when you share informational sessions like this. There could be someone that is in need of services that just is not vocalizing them at this point. So please feel free to share. And all the ladies touched a little bit on this today. CICB, which is the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board, took me 5 years to learn that acronym. Here we are. We're going to do a special on that next month. And so we will have a whole different cast of people. Hopefully I will not have technical difficulties at that time. So tune in for informational on Criminal Injuries Compensation Board next month. It's always the third Tuesday of the month from 12 to 1. And if you missed it, you can catch it on YouTube and Facebook until Facebook decides to delete it. So thank you guys so much. And I will talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.